Hello, my name is Nita Godwin and I'm with Empowering Eve, and as you can see we're here at Poor Richard's in downtown Colorado Springs.
And I'm Mel, and Poor Richard's is a bookstore, a coffee shop, a restaurant, and as you can see, a fabulous toy store.
And today you're going to hear from three amazing ladies and their stories with domestic violence and how you can see some of the warning signs if you're in a relationship or if you know of someone who's in a relationship suffering with domestic violence. Welcome. Today we're talking to three amazing women. This is a very sensitive topic, something I'm very passionate about, and something a lot of women are impacted by every year. Actually, 4,774,000 women are impacted by domestic violence every year, and actually 3 women a day die in a domestic violence occurrence. And domestic violence is the third reason for women and children to be homeless, is because of domestic violence situations. And this is a really powerful subject. So we're probably going to get some tears, probably going to get some emotion, but we have some women who've experienced domestic violence situations, and we're going to have them share their story and also a little bit of maybe signs of what affected or what they saw were signs, red flags at the beginning of the relationship, so maybe we can prevent future domestic violence relationships. So we have the first amazing lady. Her name's Victoria Stoner. She's absolutely gorgeous. You'd never think that she would be in a domestic violence situation, but she actually has been in 3 different situations, and one of the things we talked about is a lot of times you're attracted to the same type of person, and so we really want to prevent that through this show today. So could you share a little bit about your story?
Yes. Again, I was in 3 different domestic violence filled relationships, and unfortunately you don't know that you're entering in that type of situation when you're going into it. They come across very loving. They're very possessive. Mm-hmm. You know, they only want you to be around them. Mm-hmm. They want all of your time and attention, and that comes across as, you know, oh, they love me. Right. You know, oh, they're very attentive to me, and those kinds of things. But it's really possessiveness. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to go into the type of...
Yeah, well, tell me an example of what you mean by possessiveness, because sometimes women don't understand the difference between love and being possessive.
They very slowly, your friends, like all of a sudden, you know, you're not hanging around your girlfriends anymore. Right. You're not hanging around with your family anymore. You're secluded. Mm-hmm. And they get all of your time. They get all of your time, and all of a sudden you're just not around anyone anymore. Mm-hmm. But him. Mm-hmm. And his excuse is, you know, baby, I love you, and you know, you're the only one that's doing things with him, and then all of a sudden you're not doing anything together anymore. You're just always around him, right? And family's not allowed to get a hold of you anymore, and those kinds of things,
right? So tell us a little bit more about your relationships, if there's one or all 3 that were particularly...
The one that was the worst, I was married to a pastor.
Oh, wow.
And that marriage lasted for about 8 months. I'll make a long story short. He moved to Denver, and I met him through his sister. And he wooed me very quickly. I met him in August. We were married in October. Wow. And he was very charismatic, a very handsome man, but he just swept me off my feet. Right. And very quickly, after we got married, he just was not nice anymore at all. Right. But I was doing some studio work at the time, and some studio work that was arranged before I met him. Yeah. And the day that I was supposed to leave and go to the studio, he deterred me because I didn't get permission from him to go. Mm-hmm. And didn't want me to leave the house and that kind of thing. And so he was doing all kinds of things to keep me not to leave the house, and wanted me to sit on his lap and that kind of thing. And so I did. and I just got this feeling like crawling up my back that something was about to happen.
Oh my gosh.
And then so something just said run,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, and so I got up to run, and he came after me.
Wow.
And so I ran to the bedroom in the back, and I locked the door. He knocked the door down. He came after me. Then I ran to the bathroom. He came after me and knocked that door down. And this man he was about 6'3", you know, a good 250. So he was a very broad, solid man. He lifted me. He threw me into the bathtub, knocked me out conscious. And the rod from the bathtub came down and slit a big gash into my back.
Wow.
And when I came to, he had lifted me out of the bathtub. I was on the floor. His hand was in my throat. I was face down.
Wow.
His hand was in my throat, squeezing my throat. He was telling me he was going to kill me. And he had
scary.
And he had a pistol in my temple.
And this is the first time that this had happened?
This was the first time.
Oh my gosh, this is like scary.
Yeah.
This could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
He's a pastor.
He was a
Do you
pastor.
think, right?
He was a pastor, and
Right.
he just flipped out on me. I mean, the signs were there, and in his actions, he had never. This was the first time that happened.
Right.
He had a pistol in my temple, and he was pulling the trigger. This is the gun that I watched him load.
Wow.
I knew the gun was loaded, and the Holy Spirit, I'm
God.
telling you, was in the room. I couldn't speak. He was pulling the trigger, and he was just yelling that he was going to kill me, and the gun would not go off.
Oh,
The gun wouldn't go off.
so scary.
And all I can remember was just because my mouth was, of course, in the floor, and I couldn't say anything. And all I could remember in my mind was I was just saying, I just remember my mother saying, just plead the blood of Jesus. And that's all I could do was just plead the blood of Jesus in my mind. And literally, when I'm steady trying to break free of him. And literally, when I was able to just get the words out of my mouth, I plead the blood of Jesus, something threw him off of me.
Wow.
And I got up and I ran out of the apartment. And of course, there was people all over the place because they heard everything that was going on. And there was blood all over me or whatever. And there was a lady sitting in her car, and she was about to leave. And I said, please don't leave. I said, if you just please dial 911. I said, please don't leave. You know, and so she did. She dialed 911, and they came. The ambulance came, and as soon as they came, they immediately handcuffed him.
Right.
You know, but he came out, you know, of the apartment or whatever, and pulled out his clergy license, and he said,
my
you
God.
know, I'm a pastor. You know, my wife, she's got some emotional issues.
Oh
and
my God.
Yeah, he just totally. He was so
that's
calm.
awful.
He was so calm.
That's what they do.
You know,
Scary.
That is what they do.
he's totally psychopath. And,
Oh my God.
And and so they took him to jail, and took me to the hospital. And when I got out of the hospital, I called, you know, my friends in the Springs, and I said, you need to get me out of here, please.
Yeah.
And they packed my stuff up, you know, out of my apartment or
Right.
whatever, and got my daughter, and we left, and I didn't look back.
Thank God. So we also have a couple other women here with us, and one of them is Mel Spinlev, and she's also one of the co-founders of Empowering Eve, and I'm really excited to have her share part of her story. She's got a lot of amazing things about her, but one of them is getting out of a domestic violence situation herself. So do you want to share a little bit about your story?
Sure. So I was a single mom at the lowest part of my life, very broken. I just felt worthless, right? And so I started dating this guy, and like you said, you know, it just seemed charming. But looking back, I can see so many red flags. I mean, there's always so many. And you're like, oh, wow, you know, it'll get better and it'll be fine. And because I was so low, I felt like I was worthless. And I felt already that no one's really going to want me. I was really at the lowest part of my life. I second-guessed those signs, right? You're like, oh, you're just
What were some of the signs that you saw? Like an example.
Well, the possessiveness, for sure. There was a lot of womanizing, possessiveness, jealousy. And again, you think, oh, well, he loves me, and it's great. And I was lucky. I didn't stay in it very long. I was in it long enough. But I really just wanted to share, you know, I was 40-something. And I think a lot of people we'll look at women and go, well, why didn't they just leave? What's wrong? Why would you stay?
Right.
That's
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
Why would you stay? And there's so much more. It's not like you meet somebody and they punch you in the face.
Right.
Right? There's a lot of wooing. There's a lot of emotional abuse happening.
Right.
And you're already low. And that is why you attracted somebody
Right.
who's like that.
Yes.
I mean, there's something inside of you that feels that that's what you deserve. And maybe that I can say that because I know. I mean, I felt worthless. So of course I was going to attract somebody who made me feel worse and worthless. And so I remember at one point I was like, wow, this is what it's like. You know, because I'd never been in it before, and I thought, wow. And I was embarrassed, I was humiliated. I was like, I'm 40-something years old. I should know better. And other people say that, oh, you should know better. You should know the signs. You should have gotten out sooner. You shoulda, shoulda, shoulda. And there's so much manipulation involved.
Absolutely.
And so mine didn't go to where yours went at all. I was able to see it sooner, and I praise God every day. And it wasn't until I'd been mad at God for years, about a decade or more, and it wasn't until I laid the gloves down, you know, and I said, I'm exhausted. I'm tired of fighting you. I need help. And it was as if he took the blinders off my eyes, and I could see the danger I was in and that my children were in. And so then I was able to get out.
So we also have an amazing woman here. Her name's Candace, and I'm so excited to hear from you. I haven't heard much of your story yet, and I know that it's a powerful story. So you also were in the middle of a domestic violence situation trying to get one of your friends out of a situation, and I thought that was a really powerful thing for you to share. If you want to talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, I myself was a victim of domestic violence on more than one occasion, actually. People don't realize that you actually seek those relationships unintentionally. The thing is, these men pry and they look for the weaknesses in you. They look for insecurities, and they go after those insecurities in women. You know, weaknesses. Oh, well, you'll never find a man that will look over this insecurity in you, or that will overlook your weight, or overlook this about you. And it's not true. God is love. God loves everything about you. You are perfect in every single way. God will always find a way to come up with the finances for you to get out of the situation. There is no hopelessness to getting out of the relationship, or there are people out there that can help you get out of it. I've gotten out of the situations, and it's so hard, and you end up getting out of it and you go back. It's so hard, but you just got to do it, and you got to hold tight and firm and walk away and stay away. One thing I've learned is you got to occupy your time. Don't stay and sit there and think and think and think, and because when you do that, you end up going right back to that person. I'm so strongly in protecting yourself. I'm a concealed carry. I firmly believe in a woman protecting themselves. You know, it's not right for any man to hit a woman. I've learned that in domestic abuse situations, that women, especially the victim, making up excuses. Well, I didn't do the dishes, so I deserve to be hit.
Right.
No, I don't care what excuse, what the situation is. A woman never deserves to have a man put their hands on them. Whatever it was that happened, a man should never put his hands on a woman, period. Whatever it is that you think you deserved it, you do not deserve it. But I ran into a situation to where a mother and a baby's, I tried to protect them in my life. I almost got killed protecting a mother and a baby. I was kicked while I was down by this man, stomped on, my hair was grabbed, my head was bashed into fireplace bricks. He grabbed his own baby and threw her over the car seat. I was drugged with my foot in the door. I was almost ran over by the Humvee tires. It was a nightmare. No matter what the situation is, if you're trying to help your friend that is in a domestic abuse situation, if you think that it can't happen to you, or if you're trying to help a friend, always go to someone in the law, or never ever try to take it upon yourself to think that a man can't hurt you. The situation was, I was trying to go over to be a witness to a discussion of paper of a discussion of custody of a child, and it blew up into physical altercation. It was supposed to be me as coming over to watch a witness of child custody, and it blew up into a physical altercation. Never ever think that you will not be involved. Just try to do the right thing and try and be safe. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain this, but never not think that you can try and help your friend on your own. Always get law enforcement involved. Always get a specialist involved. If you are a victim of domestic abuse, you will need counseling. I'm still seeking out counseling because of domestic abuse that I've been through, and then trying to be a witness to of trying to be at a situation of being a witness towards what was supposed to be being a witness of custody discussion over a child. I can't even come up with the words because I was almost killed.
Right.
I was supposed to be a witness to custody rights of who the child was supposed to be with one week or another week. And it blew up into physical altercation and me trying to stand in between a mother.
I mean, yeah.
Literally, next thing I know, I'm standing in between a mother and a baby and a man, and he just went after them, and I was in the middle getting hit, kicked, stomped on, and my head bashed in.
Wow.
And all I know is I was taking a beating trying to protect a mother and a baby and doing whatever I could, and the next thing I know, they're trying to run away, and all I know is I'm seeing him choking my friend, and I'm trying to do everything I can to try and protect a baby. Yeah, never not think because you're in the room and you're not directly involved that it can't happen to you. Don't think that a man isn't going to go after you too.
Which brings me to another thing about protecting yourself. If you do have a friend who's in a domestic violence situation, it's probably a good idea not to keep them in your house because that perpetrator could come after you, and just like you said, they're not going to care if you're there. They have guns, they have other means, so the best thing is to really give them access to a shelter, and the shelters are usually places that are protected by law enforcement. And so I know here in Colorado Springs we have Tessa, which is a domestic violence shelter, and some other shelters in the community, but that's the main one that I would recommend. And I'm just so grateful that you ladies took time to share your story. I mean, it's a sensitive topic, and we could have sat here and talked for another hour.
Yeah, we could.
But this is really to bring awareness that it can happen to anyone, any age, any background. and we want to prevent future domestic violence situations. So if you are watching this video, if you could share it with other people on your Facebook, share it through text message, share it through any email, social media. We want to get the word out to as many people as possible.
Yes.
So thank you. Hello, welcome to Calvary Fellowship Church. You might be wondering why I'm in workout clothes. Well, I'm going to learn some self-defense techniques today. I'm actually a black belt in Taekwondo, but I love learning different self-defense techniques, especially in the issue of domestic violence. And so we're going to talk to Doris Black. She's an amazing lady. She's overcome her own self-defense or her own domestic violence situation, and you're going to learn a little bit more about her and see some self-defense techniques. Thank you so much for taking time today to just share your story and to be able to be an open book for some other women that might be struggling with domestic violence. So Doris Black is an amazing woman. She actually is a police officer, and she found herself in a very scary situation. She was married to also a cop. Or he was not a cop?
No.
Okay, do you want to actually share a little bit about the story?
Sure. So I'm no longer a police officer,
Okay.
no longer a deputy, but yes, this was back in 2006. I had been a deputy sheriff for 2 years already. I was working inside of the jail, and I was even part of an all-male at the time tactical team. I was the only girl in that tactical team, and so I was very well trained. Yet I found myself in the midst of a really dangerous situation with my ex-husband. He was my estranged husband at the time. There was some abuse in the marriage, but I didn't recognize it as abuse because it wasn't physical.
Right.
And you would think that me having been a cop at the time that I would have known those signs, but honestly, I had no idea that what we had was psychological and emotional abuse. He never laid a hand on me. He
Right.
never physically touched me. It was all just a lot of mind games and
Right.
manipulation and psychological type of abuse until I attempted to leave him. And that's when things got really dangerous.
All right, so we're here with Doris and Jessica, and they're going to show us some self-defense moves. So excited about this because, like I said, I'm a black belt in Taekwondo as well, and I learned how to kick some booty in high school, but I kind of forgot some of it. So we're going to have you share first one of the things that might happen unexpectedly. I think a chokehold. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
So in domestic violence cases, it's very common for the abuser to use a choke on his victim when there's physical abuse to try to intimidate their victim. And with a chokehold, actually, a chokehold is actually not very strong. It does take just a few seconds if they have a good hold on that neck for you to pass out. That's the dangerous part, right? However, it's not a difficult choke to defend from. And so one of the techniques that we teach in our Never a Victim program is the choke defense. And this is we use a Krav Maga technique or defense that we learn there. And it's very effective, and it helps you remain in control of that situation, if that makes sense. It doesn't take power. You don't have to use your muscle strength. You just have to be able to knock them off balance and then strike and become, you may be the defender, but then you become the aggressor until you get out of that situation. And so if the choke is on, again, where is our threat? It's right here. We need to be able to breathe. And what happens a lot of times is that people panic because this is the way we breathe. People panic, and so they just don't know what to do in that situation, so they're here. And of course, when you're in a traumatic situation, your fine motor skills, they're out the door. So if you're trying to teach these complicated little defenses, you may not be able to do that because your fine motor skills are not going to work. You have to depend on your gross motor skills because that's what's going to be more available to you when you're going through a traumatic situation. So the choke is on. Immediately, you shoot up. So again, I'm here, you shoot up, and then you have so many different things that you can do here, okay? If they're close, you can use an elbow. If they're not close, you can use your hammer fist, which is this here, and you just strike, 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 soften them up while you're still maintaining hold of this here. And then immediately you're going to go into a knee strike. So I'm here, I'm striking, 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 and then I get away.
That's good.
And the whole time I want you screaming, yelling,
Yes,
screaming,
yeah.
so that the whole
sound.
world can hear you. And what screaming does is it's just more than creating witnesses. So screaming will help you to create witnesses. It will draw attention to you. It does a couple of other things. When people are in these situations, they do one of three things. They either fight, flight, which is running away, or freeze. We do not want to freeze. We do not want you to freeze. Screaming and yelling is going to help you keep from freezing.
Right.
So that's another thing that it helps you. And a lot of times if you're attacked, depending on who's attacking you, that may even deter that assault. A bear hug is very common with kidnappings and things like that. So say the bear hug comes on. You want to be able to quickly respond to this, because if they're a big person and I'm small, I can be picked up and carried very easily. There's another defense you can do with that. So think about your child having a temper tantrum. So it's really difficult to hold your child when they're having that. Have a temper tantrum. If they pick you up, scream, yell, kick, do what you need to do, headbutts. But if you're able to, before they pick you up, you want to thrust almost in a sideways motion, because you want to create space. So you're here, and I'm dipping that inside shoulder, and I'm thrusting my hip outside. And what do we have available here? I'm going to hold on here. I'm going to strike, strike, strike. You can elbow, 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 and there's a couple of things you can do here. If you're comfortable doing this, you can turn into them to get into that knee strike, because we are stronger in closer. If you're out here, you're not going to have as much power. You have to be in close. Trust me when I say that this is uncomfortable, but you're stronger in closer. There's another thing you can do. If you're here, striking, and then you need to be able to get away, right? You don't want to continue to strike, because then they're going to get their second wind, right? So you need to move quickly. You can tee up here while holding here, and you can grab hair, pull it back, or you can quickly use this hand to palm heel strike all the way back, and then your knee is right back there, so they can fall off balance over your knee. But you have to have some really good balance so that you don't fall with them. So that's another way that you can defend against the bear hug.
That's awesome.
We would love to do a class for you if you guys are interested.
And
Give
what's
us
your
a call.
website?
It's www.never-a-victim.org.
That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you, Jessica, for being our victim today, or whatever you were. And we are just so grateful you took your time, and we hope you learned something new. And let's go out and get our self-defense courses in, ladies, because even when you wouldn't ever expect it to happen, it could happen to you. And so we want to always protect ourselves. Thank you for watching this episode of Empowering E. We hope that you gained something about domestic violence. And you're going to hear a little bit from Darla Allgood. She is Candace's mother-in-law, and she has something great that she's doing.
Hi, I'm Darla Allgood. I'm the National Queen for Today's American Women, which now we are today's international pageant. And Victoria right there is Miss Classy Colorado. She is one of my queens, and our pageant is not like no other pageant. It's about serving others and pointing the way to Christ. We have divisions, all different types of divisions. We have ages 10 to 100. We have the disability category. We have curvy, you name it, we have it. And what you find is our pageant has a heart. When you look at the queens we have in our pageant, it's more about what's in their heart and how they want to serve others.
That's great.
That is amazing.
And how can they find you?
They can find me at dallgood07gmail.com, or they can go onto our pageant website at www.today'sinternationalwoman.com. And I'm still recruiting. I'm actually going to have 4 new queens coming up.
That's great. How exciting. So we hope that you can contact her. Maybe one of you want to be in her next pageant. And thank you so much for watching today.